Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me this evening. Uh, you know, it's been a pretty crazy week and it's only Tuesday. So it kind of tells you what's going on. So before we start talking about tonight's guest, if you're watching, do me a favor, drop in the comments. If you're watching it live, hit hashtag Team Live. And that way I know you're on the live feed. And then if you watch it afterwards, go ahead and drop the hashtag Team Replay. And that way we know that you're watching it afterwards. I would greatly appreciate it. So, again, you can also follow us on Facebook at the show page, which is Made from Scratch Broadcast. And then you can also follow us on Twitter, which is at Gay My Word Vomit, or on Instagram, which we do a live feed, kind of like the behind the show sort of thing that we got going on. And that's at the_Gabriel_Leo on Instagram. And then you can also follow us on our YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube and type in Gabriel Leo, you can find me. It'll be Made from Scratch. You can see all the past episodes that we got going on. You can also see the video after tonight, and it'll be uploaded. Do us a favor, if you're stopping by there, hit the like and subscribe button, drop a comment. We would greatly appreciate it, as we're trying to build our viewership on on YouTube. So I would appreciate a lot. And then also you can also find the show in podcast form when you go to www.anchorfm.com. You can find it on Spotify. We're also on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and now on Overcast, and soon on Apple Podcasts. So thank you for hopping along. You can go back and listen to past episodes. I would greatly appreciate it. Drop me comments or suggestions if you would like to see something changed on there. So I would always appreciate that. I always appreciate the feedback. So let's go ahead and get started with this evening. So tonight's guest, he's got, pulling up my show notes. It's starting to rain. Pretty awesome. Okay. Again, so tonight, my guest, he is a fashion designer. Very interesting person. He's designed for a few celebrities, I believe. I'll let him tell you about that, though. And he's also got a unique style that it really is his own. And I really dig what he does. Again, he's got a fashion line which he calls Dapper Rebels. I'll let him explain a little bit more about that himself. So, guys, if you would give me a big round of applause and help me introduce Eric Renteria to the show. Hey, Eric, are you there?
Yes.
All right. We are rocking and rolling tonight. Again, we're in the world where you could be doing something else if there wasn't nothing in like coronavirus. You could probably be out at the bar. But again, thank you guys for being here with me. And let me introduce you, Eric. A very interesting guy. And he is, by the way, I got a disclosure. He is family. But again, it's awesome that I have family members that are like this, that are creative people, that are creative souls. And again, it's, I guess it speaks volumes to who we are as people and the family that we grow up in. So let me start out by asking Eric a quick question about his journey into fashion. So how did you start your journey in actually knowing that you wanted to do fashion design?
It actually started when I was younger, about about 18, really when I was going into college. I was really interested in fashion design, but I didn't know a lot about it. And kind of in the back of my head, I always figured, well, how am I going to make any money? They had the program at Tech, but I decided to go into biology and nutrition. And it's essentially how it kind of happened. Growing up, I had always wanted to be in like a magazine. That was always the ultimate, like my ultimate goal was to be in like a major magazine like GQ or Elle. I don't know why, but my mom would always buy me Elle magazine. It's kind of strange for like a 13-year-old,
Yeah.
but and I would always look at all the ads, things like that. And then it wasn't actually, I transferred to UT, and basically that's kind of how it started. With my move to Austin, just meeting certain people there, and kind of unhappy with my job at the hospital. And I started dating this girl who just happened to be Kendra Scott. I don't know if you know who Kendra Scott is. She's a jewelry designer.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
Yeah,
I
I've heard
started
of them.
dating her. Yeah, I started dating her, her assistant. And so this is when Kendra Scott was just had opened up her first shop and was about to get married, and her husband was a super cool dude. And one day he invited me over. We were talking, and he just said, what do you want to do? You seem unhappy. And so I just basically kind of told him what I wanted to get into, and he was like, and I said, I kind of want to go back to school again. And at this point, I was in my 30s. And he says, well, you should go back to school, study something different, but kind of figure out, fashion makes you happy. Like, figure out something you want to do, but start off small. Like, if you like, start a T-shirt line or something like that. And I didn't really know how to do any type of like graphic design or things like that. So I'd kind of sketch out some sayings and whatnot. Anyway, so that's basically he's like the main guy that kind of pushed me to that. So I ended up going home that night, applying for school. I think I ended up breaking up with my girlfriend like 2 days later because I kind of got in. I figured that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Lubbock. I was 34 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I loved it. But so that's basically kind of how I got into it. Now, with how I kind of fell into what I started doing was just kind of an accident, really. It was while I was at school. Um, I was riding the trolley to class and saw this kid wearing a Letterman sweater. And we were dressed really similar, like the way we wore our pants and the shoes and our button downs. And I went to class, and he was at the coffee shop that I'd always, because I lived behind the coffee shop. I stopped him and I said, where'd you get that sweater from? And this is my uncle. And I was like, man, that's super cool. So I kind of started looking around. I was like, well, I'd like one for myself. And so Lubbock was just full of vintage shops, so I couldn't really find one. So I kind of jumped online and found me an old sweater on eBay. And somehow, I don't even know how I found an old Texas Tech patch. I think I found one up in like this guy who bought a whole bunch of old backstock.
Yeah.
Or dead stock, and ordered all of them. I think he made me a deal. So I had all these patches. I really didn't even know how to sew. So there was a lady who lived across the street, or who had a dry cleaners who lived across the street. And so I walked over there and said, hey, can you sew this on for me? So she sewed it on for me, and that was basically it. I just started wearing it every day in class, and people would start coming up to me asking me, where'd you get this sweater? Where can I get one? And from there it was all kind of downhill. I was just thinking, hey, wait, I think I'm onto something here.
So that's pretty cool.
That's the basic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you can, again, you find inspiration anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that could like literally change your life, and which it has. It's taking you down a path. That's led you to meet interesting people and do interesting things. So again, I tell everybody, inspiration, you never know where it's going to come from. So just get ready for it, when it hits you. And that's pretty awesome that something like that, a small, somebody would kind of think would be just a small, minute detail and an everyday, everyday life. And say, hey, I just saw a kid wearing a sweater. And to you, it's like a light bulb moment goes off. Whoa, that's something I like. It's something that interests me. So Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. I like that part of your story. So how did it end up becoming your signature style? I mean, did it start that way, or did it develop into that, and you started just doing more and more? Because you just don't do like sweaters, do you?
Yeah. So essentially, um, you know, growing up, I had always I was introduced to like things of that era, like
Yeah.
baseball players, like football and music and things like that. And so, I grew up in Amarillo, which is the
Oh,
Panhandle of Texas,
awesome.
and my uncle, who that was his time was the 50s. So,
Yeah.
and my aunt was my babysitter. So growing up, that's what we would just talk about. He would play Buddy Holly records and all these different Elvis, and we would talk about baseball and Mantle and all these different things, and the way he would show me photos, and it was just the style was just so clean. It's a preppy style.
Yeah.
It really was. The loafers and the socks and the way they comb their hair. It's just a really cool. It's not when people think of that time, it's not like the movie Grease.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like that type of.
Yeah.
I mean, there were poodle skirts and leather jackets, but not everybody was wearing that kind of stuff. It was a real properly jeans, um, kind of a clean look. And then you had your Letterman sweater, which was all about sports and things like that. So yeah, it was just I would study old yearbooks. That's really kind of how growing up too. I
Oh,
would go antique
yeah.
shopping. I would find old yearbooks, and now it's actually you can just get online and find yearbooks.
That's that's
It's really cool.
crazy. That.
Um,
Yeah. No, go ahead.
yeah, so when I started doing this sweater thing, and also it was kind of a way to meet girls, um, because I made my first sweater, and people were coming up to me asking me where can I get the sweater. And at that point, I guess Facebook was kind of still fairly new,
Yeah.
and I didn't know. I mean, the age difference was I was 34,
Yeah.
so I in my mind I look like I'm 18, but they're probably like, "Who's this old guy talking about?"
Yeah.
And I'd wear it to class. I mean, I wore it every
Everywhere.
day, and I even had an old vintage bicycle, so it was almost like I was riding my old bike to school. I was wearing the sweater. It was just type thing, and I was always kind of by myself, and so um, I met this girl, and I said, you know what, she was in a sorority. She was a real pretty girl. I think she had just graduated. She studied PR, and I said, you know what, I'll make you a sweater if you'll help me out with my stuff. Um, wear it around. We'll go take some pictures. And
Yeah.
so there at the university, you can utilize. I mean, you can check out a camera. You can do so. I just used the campus for everything I could. It's perfect. There's football
Resort.
stadiums there, like everything.
Yeah.
So once we started kind of shooting, my early pictures were just horrible. But she would put it on her on her Facebook, and it would just like take
Just
off.
shut off, right?
Yeah. So then we had to set up. I had to learn how to, set up a website. So I went to the school of
Technology.
yeah, good grief, mass communications,
Oh, mass. Yeah, there you go.
MassCom, and I kind of asked them, and so it was just all about meeting people along the way, and then making these sweaters, and then giving them, because I didn't have any money to pay people, so it was just these sweat. It was just kind of, you know, um, that's basically how it started. I wasn't charging a lot, just trying to figure out, what these kids can pay for and how long, and then it'll take me to make them while I was still studying.
Yeah.
So
That's that. Yeah. I'm sorry, but again, you starting off in the process like that, right? It's not only thinking, hey, it's a great way to meet girls, right? But using your resourcefulness, to go and say, hey, I don't have a lot of money, but I do have an idea. I do have a creative mind and a creative process to get things like that done.
Yeah.
And, so how does that lead you to, landing somewhere like in, New York Fashion Week?
So again, it comes along with people So I met this guy in Austin who became a friend. He actually got a job working for Study Break, which was like this. I don't know. It's a little magazine that's on all the campuses throughout, like UT, Baylor, Tech, like just all around. And he said, "Hey man, I see what you're doing on your Facebook. Like, would you like to? Can we do a story on you?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Dude, yeah, like totally." So that was like my first interview.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and then the magazine came out, I think that fall.
Yeah.
And so all the kids are like, they're at every time you walk into class, there's like a stack of like magazines. So they're at all the campuses, like Tech, UT. So then I started getting recognized all around campus, and then at that point, I think I had a little website and things like that. And so and then the school newspaper did a story on me, and so from that, I started picking up, and people were calling me to do shows. So my first actual real show was Austin Fashion Week.
Yeah.
And they loved my stuff, and so we had a really cool fashion show. And then just kept using all of that, that media and those write-ups and on my website and things like that. So the next big thing after that, well, I guess I skipped a bunch of different stuff, but that's essentially how I kind of came into New York Fashion Week.
Yeah.
Was submitting my work and having that path. But yeah, there was a lot to learn on how to run a fashion show, model. I mean, it takes money. It's just since I was only doing sweaters, you also have to style.
Yeah.
So there's I learned a lot, and really really interesting. But and then the more that I would just reach out to like Donald Glover, for instance. I was studying the library, and I had never heard of him. I had a friend of mine that was like, "Listen to the song." So I got on, just kind of found the guy who repped him, and reached out and said, "Hey, you know what? This is what I do. I'm not going to charge you. I love your music. Can I design something for you?" And they contacted me back and said, "Yeah." So I just got to working on that, and I said, all I want in return, if possible, is just him wearing my sweater and some photos, and that's it. So finished it up, sent it off, and he messaged me and was just like, "Man, this sweater is killer." And he sent me a video of him recording his first album in it.
Oh wow!
And he's actually in the studio singing. I mean, it's super cool. He sent me all these photos.
Let me pull that one up right there if you can see it.
So not a lot of people have ever seen that photo because it was just for me. But there's an actual video of him recording camp.
Oh wow!
He's actually in the box like rapping, and he's walking around in New York, and so that was kind of my first major thing. And then he said, "You know what? I'm coming to Dallas, man. Let's meet up." And so he came to Dallas and wore a sweater, and we met, and we took that other photo. I don't know that you showed.
Yeah.
That was here in Dallas. There you go.
Met
go. Up here in Dallas, and we took some pictures and talked, and it was cool. And that was, before he was already on NBC and stuff like that, but he wasn't really quite had blown up, more so,
Yeah. So it was finding the right people at the right time,
Yeah, exactly. And then, I've also worked with Kendall Jenner. I caught her before.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
So that was, again, a girl that had photographed my work at Austin Fashion Week contacted me and said, "I have a buddy out in LA, and he is going to hire Kendall Jenner," which at the time, like, it was just Kim's sister.
Yeah.
She just started modeling, like, she's still real young, and so he pretty much spent all his money on hiring her
Yeah.
and didn't have money for anything else. So he says, "Can you send me all your stuff? Like, we'll shoot it." So I sent all my stuff out there. The shot in Malibu, it was awesome. They made videos. I have photos of that too. And that was a huge, huge deal. Well, it became a huge deal. At the time, it was, like I said, she was still rather unknown.
Yeah.
But I caught her at the right time.
At the right time, right place. Wow. That's a pretty incredible story because, looking at the magnitude of who she is now.
Oh yeah, she's like, I can't even imagine how much it would cost to even get her. And I have those photos. They're on my Instagram. They were actually shot really, really well. Also, I think it was like Miss Cuba was in there. There was another super like a swimsuit model that's well known.
Yeah.
I don't know how he knew these people or what, but he did a really good job. He was starting to line with sunglasses made out of wood.
Yeah.
They were called Woodies.
Oh, okay.
So that's basically how I got linked up with that. But
wow, man, that's a pretty incredible story. Seeing that it started out as just an idea of seeing another kid wearing a sweater, and it went from that to something like that. So are you like working with, currently working with anybody else that, that might be along those lines, somebody who's just might be coming up or somebody you recognize?
Well, right now, and I didn't even, this is like something that was just funny to me was, his name is Stephen Boss, but his name goes by his Twitch on the Ellen Show.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know until somebody pointed out to me and said, "Hey, did you know that Twitch is following you on Instagram?" And I said, "Who? Like, who is it?" Yeah. And so I went back and looked, and this has been a couple of years ago, I guess. And
yeah,
he said, "Hey, man, just reaching out to we follow each other on Instagram." And I said, "Just a quick question. How did you run across my stuff?" And he says, "I met Donald Glover, and he was wearing his sweater, and that's how I got connected." And I was like, "Oh, man." So then, started kind of making stuff for him, and essentially, go ahead.
Oh, and it took off from there.
Yeah. And of course, this has been about a year and a half ago, and we're still working on some stuff. But
yeah,
he's completely blown up too. I mean, he's hosting New Year's Eve. Yeah. He's doing all kinds of stuff. So very proud of him. I mean, it's interesting how I've been able to catch certain people right at that. Same thing with Leon Bridges. He's a Texas kid.
Yeah.
We run in the same circle of friends. And it was like, dude, you should make him something. And, I contacted, it's funny because he basically lives about 10 miles from here, 15 miles. But I had to contact this guy his stylist out of New York, and made a sweater and sent it to him. And I actually ran into him at an art thing here in Dallas. Yeah. He had just he bought a new house in Fort Worth, and he shot in his house wearing my sweater.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I have a cool photo of that too. That was super cool. I totally dig his style. And so that's where the name Dapper Rebels comes from. It was actually a group of young African-American men in the 60s and 70s who, during like the riots and things like that in LA.
Yeah.
They were rebels. They were dressing like, if you were to look up their photos, they were all, just stylish, wearing sweaters. The way that they dressed, it's just, but that was their gang. It was like that's how they stood out. They were very dapper. Not like ties. Just, you have to try and look them up, but it was like leather sweaters, jeans that were kind of fitted, that were starched with loafers, and this is. So I just thought, well, you know what a great name for it. So that's basically what I kind of stuck with. But yeah, and then so along the way, I met this guy when I was studying. He was an attorney, and when I was at Tech, and he wanted to do this thing. He wanted to write about people who were living in Texas that were just doing fun stuff. So we just became friends, and he said, you know what, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to start this book. So he started a blog. Then he got some financial backing. So then he says, I'm starting this book. It's called Texas Works.
Oh, wow.
And it's about people in Texas. People in Texas that are doing really cool stuff. And you can see down here, it was like, Kendra Scott was kind of in there. So it has all these different, like, beer, guitars,
wow,
just really cool items. But he did a story on me. There was only a few people that he did stories on in the book. Wow. And he did this really cool story, and we shot that photo is actually at Hunky's. In Development. In Bishop Park.
Yeah.
So if you go in there, you kind of see so we sat in the corner, and then we shot in the alley there against the brick wall. You can kind of walk by, and that's
look at that
stuff. So it was cool. So you could actually find this book in all of the bookstores. So it was cool to be somebody,
That's
Texas, and it's a really cool, nice, hard, book, but stuff like that.
That's pretty awesome that again, that these I think it's just one of those things of being in the right moment, being in the right place, being prepared to take that kind of opportunity to step into doing something like that. That is always incredible, because you hear people say, well, if it had been a year earlier, I would have been able to do it. Or so it's about taking those chances when you have them and making those kind of opportunities. It's just pretty awesome, because again, it can lead you into things like, again, meeting up and coming artists or having your clothes fashioned by one of the biggest fashion icons going right now. And, it's so interesting that all this stuff here can happen. And, it speaks to like what you do as a person, as a designer. And then it speaks to, again, taking opportunities. So, that's one of the things when I bring people on, and I call everybody this, and I ask them, I call them creative souls, because we all have that, we all have that inspiration to create. So, I always, whenever I meet people like yourself, and again, it just happens to be that we're family. How's that? It's just crazy that I can do something like this, and it goes like that. I can bring someone along, because again, it's taking the opportunity to do this. So, one other thing that always fascinated me about you when I would follow you is your fascination with with Buddy Holly. That I see you, because he is an interesting figure when you go back and look at history, and I don't want to say, the small amount of time that he did, but yet made the impact that he did.
Yeah, definitely.
And how did you come about as far as like wanting to say that's the guy because we all have that certain person that we say, I like his style. If you were trying to emulate somebody, that's who it would be.
Yeah, he well, of course, he's a Panhandle kid too.
Yeah.
And then being there in Lubbock is a small city, and you can actually run into like family members, which is really interesting.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So at that time when I was there, I'd always liked his music anyway. Like I said, kind of growing up, but the thing that just fascinated about what's fascinating to me about him was that he knew what he wanted.
Yeah.
He was young, and if you read about him, he essentially he knew what he wanted to do as far as his music. And at the time, rock and roll was early. They thought it was a fad. Country was kind of the thing. So a lot of them tried to, tell him, this is what you need to do, and this is what's going on. They said, no, this is what I want to do. And he was kind of they call him a nerdy kid, but that's how they all kind of looked at that time, just kind of. But as he started getting a little more famous, he met a couple of guys that said,
Yeah.
you need to start dressing a little bit better. So they were actually in London and started getting in some fitted suits, and that's when he changed his glasses and said, you know what? He tried to wear some contacts on stage, but back then they were made out of glass and they were big, and one fell out. And
Yeah.
We're on the floor trying to find it, and people were laughing. And he said, after that, F that dude. Like, I'm not going to change me. So he says, I'm going to wear glasses. So I'm going to wear glasses. I'm going to I'm going to wear ones that everybody can see. So that was just one thing that, I really liked about him. You don't ever really hear anything bad about him. He was always trying to kind of keep everybody in line, especially for somebody who's 22 years old. I mean, think about it. Like, that's most of the time you're just graduating college trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, this guy knew what he wanted. It's a shame that he died so young, but he kind of had a vision of what he wanted to do. So, but that was pretty much my fascination with him. I actually have a Letterman sweater from the year he graduated in my closet right now from his high school. It wasn't his, but it was from that year. And I actually found his yearbook. I was in Arlington visiting my mom. I went to an antique shop and found the yearbook, and I said, wait a minute. This is this right year in his high school, and I look in, and there's his picture, and the damn thing was on sale for $20.
Oh.
So I went up there thinking they were going to be like, I bought the damn book for $20. So
that's crazy.
So I have, those are hard to come by. So it's really interesting. But, and then when I was at Tech, I actually lived a couple blocks over from where he grew up. So I was basically walking the same street.
Yeah.
And all that. And I would actually I would actually go out to his grave quite a bit and like talk to him and just go and say,
that's pretty.
Yeah. It's cool. It was cool.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, man. That again, it's somebody that you follow like that, and so you can be so close and mirror all the stuff and see all the stuff that it kind of helps develop you as a person as well, even though they're not here anymore. And that's always kind of cool because, again, you never know. He probably never knew that was going to make the impact that he made on somebody somewhere. And hopefully that's what, as you as a creative person, that's me as a creative person, that's what I want to do, is just leave something behind that somebody, might find and say, hey, check this out. This is a book that was written by so-and-so, or this sweater was designed by Eric Renteria, and he had this and he had that. And so that leads me kind of into the next question. So what's next for you? What are your plans, or do you have any plans going forward now or in the immediate future, especially with like all the stuff that's going on around us?
Yeah. With the sweater thing, it's just, what I do is I would find sweaters and repurpose them. That's actually how I got started with the sewing thing. But as the years have gone by, I've actually learned how to sew from my mom. So that's when I started branching out into dresses and different things like that. Because the sweaters, they're all old. They're from anywhere from 1910 to 1960, and a lot of them aren't in great shape. And it's hard to find. So when I would get orders, people weren't as big as we are now back then. So that was kind of a thing that I ran into. So I had to think, well, if I want to stay doing this, I need to continue doing something, branch out. So that's why I got into skirts and things like that. But fashion is hard. You need a lot of money. And I think for a while there, and even now, I don't design to sell like online. I design to think, well, okay, there's a person that I might, who do I think is cool, what's going on, or what. So I still reach out to them and say, hey, you know what, let's work together. Like, I'm not going to charge you. This is where I start listing off all the people that I've worked for, and say, like, this is all I asked for. So I kind of took a break. Yeah. I'm ready to jump back into it again. That's why I don't really have a website. I don't really have all of that. So I just had a friend reach out and she's like, Eric, let's start doing it again and start taking some photos. So right now I have some swimsuits. We're gonna shoot. So
Yeah.
I kind of want to get into that. I always love the sweaters. They're great, but they're just so expensive. And when I do make them for people, man, I'm selling them anywhere between $300 and $700.
Yeah.
So that's not everybody can afford that,
Yeah.
but it's something that you're gonna have for a while. And I have a huge Letterman sweater collection right now. Probably I'll end up donating to the university,
Yeah.
UT and Texas, because I have so many. But that's what I want to do. I want to get back into it. I really want to start getting my stuff out to people to wear. Kind of start there and building up my press again, and then
Yeah.
essentially start have another fashion show. And charity's kind of a big thing. Texas Tech has always been really good to me. So my kind of what I'd like to do is um, try and donate back to the school. Not per se, but there was a program I was in because I have ADHD,
Yeah.
and it was an expensive program, but it would help students. So to help maybe a student, if I could even help one student buy a book,
Yeah.
or if I could send them a gift card to help buy hot chocolate. I mean, those were all things that were like sound kind of dumb, but they meant a lot. When you're there, or if you're a smart kid, you still have the money for a book. If somebody can buy you a book for a semester, it's going to help. I mean, like if I can do that, but yeah, that's something I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Like I
That's
said,
pretty,
it's
again,
pretty cool.
and that's paying it forward. That's, you know, a small little gesture like that. You never know how far it can go. Uh, Again, that kid that you reach out to could be I love what he does. I want to do like he does. I want to recreate like he does. So, you know, paying it forward into the world is one of the best things that I see people do all the time, and I enjoy doing it myself, is when I get the opportunity to pay it forward. So again, people, it's part of networking. It's part of growing as a person. It's part of you know making the best of every opportunity that you have. So having a generous heart, having compassion, showing your love for again your school, because they've been so good to you. You know
Yeah, definitely.
that's again paying it forward, and that shows that you do have a lot of respect for yourself and the environment that you grew up in, and how it helped develop you as a person. And that's really cool that you do that. So um, I got one more question, and this is a question that I ask all my guests that come on. And again, I always preface it by saying, it's kind of morbid a little bit, but it's again, our time on this world is finite. It will end sooner or later. So I always ask everybody, um, when your time is up on this earth, what do you want to be remembered for? What is the one thing you want to be, that you want to leave behind? What kind of imprint do you want to leave on the earth?
So that's actually a really good question. So we live in a time now with we can jump online and I can type in your name and find out anything and everything most of the time about you.
Yeah.
And so with these Letterman sweaters, people's names are in them that used to
Oh,
wear them. So let me see if I can find one. So usually in the pockets of these sweaters are the person's names.
yeah.
And what I would do is I would essentially sell your sweater, I leave their name, and I would find their bio. And most of the time, you could find out what they studied, where they went to school, how they died, their accomplishments and
Oh,
family.
wow.
So, I think it would be cool if I, could set some of my own sweaters out there with my name, and somebody could wear it and find it and enjoy it and think, you know what, I wonder who this guy is, and type in my name and find out, well, you know what, this is cool, man. This guy, there's pictures of him in his letter sweater, because I
Yeah.
have a lot of pictures that I found from people in the 50s and 40s wearing their sweaters in college, and then you can track their life. Like after
Yeah.
school, they got married, then he went in, he sold radios, and then or he was a professional athlete, And it's so crazy that I had a sweater that went full circle. It was sent to me by an old alum. It was her dad's from the class of '47. And that's a sweater that I wear in every photo shoot. I always have it on every game I go to, and so it's a sweater that I wear. So maybe one day it'll end up on somebody and they can look it up, and that's how I'll be, kind of remembered. So
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, man. That's a pretty interesting little thing about it is that you can actually wear somebody's legacy, somebody's
yeah,
live stream, somebody's soul was in that sweater, and
yeah.
I never thought of it about it that way. But man, that's a real good answer. I love that. That's
How, I think about it in high school. You worked so hard for that letter to be. You're a part of a team, and when you won that letter, it was called a Letterman Association, and you wore it, and you're forever. Your name is in that. So it's just
yeah,
somebody wore this sweater every day for who God knows how long, and then it was set off in the world, and I found it, and
yeah,
now I'm giving it life again, or I fixed it, and I'm shipping it off to somebody with the history of it, and
yeah.
it's really cool, man. Like I said, so most of us
I,
may or may not do anything cool and just kind of go on, but
yeah,
maybe they'll find my sweater. It's really interesting.
that's an incredible little aspect to it because again, um, it was something that was so personal. There's story, there's history, there's stuff
Yeah.
written into the threads of what you're wearing, and
I
that's
find like old like love letters. I find
oh
old like
my
glass
God.
circles. I find like dude,
That's
it's really really cool. And when I can do research and find out like you know who this person was, and then you can type in like I said, you can find out when they were born, where they went to school, when they died, how they died, their family, and you see an
wow.
old picture, and then when they were younger, the new. It's really cool. It's a really cool thing, and I think that's why I enjoy.
Tell you the truth, tell you the truth, that's been one of the best answers that I've had because again, it goes beyond just being a tangible item. Again, it carries a part of somebody that was into that, and as opposed to say, I don't know, just compared it to this, but it's say to a book because a book could be like a second, a third publication, a fourth edition, a fifth edition. So down the line, you're never going to be able to see like what the original manuscript or what a first edition book was. And seeing that sweater though, that's something that you just don't, say, hey, this is a recreation. This is the third edition of this sweater. It's the fourth edition. It's original and it carries so much history behind it. I love that, man. That
Yeah,
that's always awesome. I love that answer as well. So, well, Eric, let me start by saying thank you for hopping on, man. It's been
yeah,
fun doing
it's
this,
fun.
fun connecting. Um, and before I get out of here, before I go ahead and end the conversation, there's one little thing I just wanted to mention, and it's because it's affecting this again. We can't ignore the topic of the day, which is the coronavirus, because again, it's affecting a lot of the people who I'm trying to reach out and talk to, who are the creative people who create music and books and writers and designers and all these people who depend on a lot of, again, you say it's a very expensive field to be in. Fashion's not cheap. Neither is book writing. You don't make a lot of money from it, but it takes a lot of money to invest the time and the effort to put it in it. And then, uh, when you have those avenues where you want to go out and do the festivals and shows, kind of like what they did with South by Southwest, a
Mhm.
lot of people and a lot of artists um, depend on that publicity. They depend on that networking and the opportunity to be there. So my friend Frank has started let me just pull this up real quick. He started a thing where his son and his daughter are musicians, and he's trying to reach out and try to help people, uh, musicians who rely a lot on that income, and you know, who knows when's the next time they're going to see any kind of money flowing into their house, because income, you know, kind of depends on their performance. So uh, we wanted to start doing out just by saying it. He's out there doing this, and we're creating a hashtag and hopefully maybe a GoFundMe page to try to get something together for these kind of artists and people. So we're going to be using the hashtag AidForArtist and CashForCreativity to go out there and spread a message, especially in this time, because again, we're talking about who knows, everything's postponed indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows when's the next time you're going to be able to go out and perform, you know, and it's different if you're like signed to a label and you have royalties and you have all that stuff coming in. But if you're, you know, if you're a lower level artist and you're depending on your live shows, going from town to town and that sort of thing, that's going to be kind of hurting everybody's pocket. And you know, we just want to get this out there and see if we can create a little movement, try to get a little help out there, because that's what it's all about. If I can't use this forum to at least try to help somebody, you know, I'm not using it right. And that's something that I've been preaching again every time that I come on here. So guys, if you can, hit that hashtag up, and I'll post anything related to this in the show notes, and any of the other streams that I have it on, I'll drop it in as well. And I'm in the process of creating a website so I can hopefully share this information as well, and I'll be able to live stream my broadcast on there as well, so we'll get a little bit more exposure and be able to spread that out. So thank you again, Eric, for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And again, we're in a different time. It's a different place, but again, we don't have to stop connecting. We don't have to stop reaching out, and we're practicing safe social
distancing.
Social distancing. There you go. That's the buzzword right now, the keyword. That's pretty funny. Whoever came up with that, we had to talk about that before. So thanks everybody for coming on this evening. You can check out the episode on the YouTube channel as well once we're done here, and it'll be up in the podcast form if you want to listen to it on podcast. So thank you for hopping on, Eric. I appreciate it. And everybody, I'll see you again tomorrow night. My guest will be Elle Hoffman. She has a message she's spreading as well, and it's something called the Shame-Free Challenge. We'll get into that a little bit more tomorrow. So thank you guys for hopping on, and y'all have a great evening. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.